When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This content may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion advised.
The sound that followed was awful, like something breaking. The man screamed, collapsing onto one side.
I have not forgotten that feeling. I screamed with all of my strength. I screamed.
We should have left right then. Why didn't we just leave?
It scared me half to death. And I remember, calling my mom. It's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
From killer podcasts, true tales of horror, bizarre happenings, unexplainable events. This is Disturbed. Hello and welcome back to the show. This week we're bringing you 5 stories that will keep you up at night. So sit back, listen closely, and dive into the horror. First, a story narrated by Terra Ashe from r/Let's Not Meet. I can't sleep anymore.
I've wanted to tell this story for a few months, and since it's currently 4:30 a.m. and I can't sleep due to my residual fear that someone is lurking in my apartment, now seems like a good time. To set the tone, I'm a bartender, and one Saturday night I had a really awful shift. I have pretty thick skin and can handle myself relatively well, but that night I'd been sexually harassed by a patron and it really got to me. After he was kicked out from our establishment, I decided to stick it out and finish my shift. I even called my dad and talked to him, and we agreed that so long as I was physically safe and emotionally ready to finish my shift, I should, so I did. My boyfriend waited up for me in our shared ground-level apartment despite having worked a full day himself. He knew I was really upset about the comments made to me earlier that night. We went to bed and watched some TV, lying with our heads at the foot of the bed, our bedroom door partially open. Eventually, my boyfriend dozed off, his hands on my back. I was scrolling on my phone in the light of the TV menu, finally allowing the discomfort of the night's earlier events to fade. Then I heard it. The faintest word. Hello? I froze. The milliseconds within that second expanded. My eyes darted to the TV, to my boyfriend, to my phone, and I desperately hoped that I'd experience some type of auditory hallucination, that I was more tired than I realized. But then I heard it again. Clear as day, coming from my hallway. Hello? It wasn't loud. It was low, quiet, as if someone were checking to see if I was asleep. All at once, I realized I could see a figure in my hallway. The voice was coming from a person who did not belong in my home. I have not forgotten that feeling. I screamed with all of my strength. I screamed. My boyfriend jumped up, awake, confused, yelling. He ran to our bedroom door and threw it fully open. There was the intruder, standing and staring in the darkness. We didn't know what he wanted. We honestly still don't. My boyfriend pushed him and told him to leave. We both assumed he'd accidentally entered the wrong apartment until he coldly, calmly said, "I'll leave," and turned around, not towards the front door, but towards the sliding glass door to our enclosed patio. He slipped out so silently, so quickly, and hopped the 4-foot fence. We decided not to call the police because I was hysterical, confused, and in the moment convinced myself that he just had the wrong apartment. It wasn't until we discussed the situation with other people that it became clear something more nefarious was afoot. The time of the break-in was 4 a.m., and I can count on one hand the amount of times I've had a good night's sleep since the incident. I usually can't fall asleep before 4 a.m., and when I do, I wake up around 3 and have to double-check that everything's locked. I'm moving to a new place in a couple months, and I'm sure my sleep will improve greatly after that.
Our next story is told by Dallas Stark about an ordinary man who watched and waited.
It was New Year's Eve 2020, and I had just finished my shift as a server at a sports bar downtown. I was 26 years old, and I'd been working there for about 2.5 years. After I clocked out, I headed over to a nearby bar that lots of fellow servers in the area frequented. While I was there drinking, I noticed a man there who was a regular at my bar. I saw him all the time, multiple times a week, but since he always sat at the bar rather than at tables, I'd never actually spoken to him. This guy was middle-aged, quiet, and always dressed nicely in business attire. As I passed by him, I greeted him in a friendly way. "Oh hey, I see you at the bar all the time." I just meant it as a casual hello, not intending for it to be anything more than that. This man, who was double my age, proceeded to tell me, "I've been watching you for the past 3 years." He started telling me how he would always watch me working from his seat at the bar. He himself worked across the street, so he would watch me walk to lunch shifts from his office window. I don't remember everything he said, but he really emphasized how long he'd been watching me and waiting to talk to me for 3 years, which had to be false since I had only worked there for 2.5 years. Then, he said he was planning to ask me to marry him for his 53rd birthday. The fuck? He'd never spoken to me before, yet he was planning to propose to me? He asked where I lived, to which I gave a vague answer. At some point I said I was thinking about finding a new job, and his response was chilling. "Well, don't go anywhere I can't find you." The next day at work, I told everything to the manager on duty, who went to ask the bar manager about this creep. The bar manager knew all the regulars. His response? He's harmless. Frankly, that dismissal kind of pissed me off. Apparently, Regulars can say anything they want to staff, and management will let them get away with it. As fate would have it, all the restaurants were about to shut down from the pandemic in March of 2020, so I didn't work there much longer anyway. I'll probably never run into that guy again. I've had tons of other creepy things said to me while working in the service industry, but this encounter was especially eye-opening to me. Somebody I'd never spoken to had been watching me and fantasizing about me for years. It made my skin crawl. He had just looked like a polite man minding his own business. Just goes to show you can never tell what's going on inside someone's head.
We just dropped our latest episode of the Patreon exclusive series In Cold Pursuit, where we tackle all the grisly details of famous cold cases. For just $6 a month, you can watch this latest episode, check out all the other Patreon exclusive series we offer, get ad-free and day-early main series releases, and more. Click the link in the bio to learn more. Thanks. This next story comes from disturbed listener Jude and is narrated by Bodhi Crowe. Thanks for the story, Jude. If you have a disturbing story of your own and you want to hear it on the podcast, submit it at the link below. Home alone, or so we thought.
My name is Jude, and my family and I live on 20 acres in the south. We have neighbors, but it's a good 2 to 3 minute walk to get to them. If you scream loud enough, someone might hear, but it would take them time to reach us. That's the thing about living out here. It's quiet and peaceful, but it's isolated. At the time this happened, I was 14. My sister Sarah was 9, and my brother Luke was 10. Every week, my parents had a date night. They'd go into the city, leaving me in charge. It was never a big deal. We'd watch movies, make popcorn, and stay up late, pretending we weren't just a bunch of kids alone in a big house in the middle of nowhere. But that night was different. I don't remember exactly when I started feeling uneasy. Maybe it was the way the wind howled against the house, or how the trees outside cast shadows that seemed to move on their own. Maybe it was nothing, but then the power flickered just for a second. The TV went black before flashing back on, the sound of whatever movie we had on cutting in and out. Luke groaned, "Oh, come on, not this again." The power had gone out a couple of times earlier that week, so it wasn't unusual. I glanced at my phone. No messages from Mom or Dad yet. It was just a little after 9 p.m., so they wouldn't be home for another 2 hours. That's when I heard it. A noise. Not from inside the house, but beneath it. A thump. The basement. I froze, my blood turning to ice. The wind could make weird sounds in an old house like ours, but this wasn't the wind. It was deliberate, heavy, like someone or something was moving down there. "Did you hear that?" Sarah whispered, pulling her blanket tighter around her shoulders. "Probably just the wind," I said, though my voice didn't sound convincing. Luke scoffed. "That wasn't the wind." Then it happened again. A scrape. A dull clunk. The basement door was locked. I was sure of it. But something told me that didn't matter. I stood up slowly. "Stay here," I said, my voice lower than usual. "No way," Luke whispered back, his eyes wide. I ignored him and crept toward the kitchen, where the basement door was. The air felt heavier, like the house itself was holding its breath. The wooden floor creaked under my weight as I reached for the doorknob. It was unlocked. I knew I had locked it earlier. And then, before I could even react, the door burst open. The door slammed against the wall as a man launched out of the darkness. I stumbled back, my heart hammering against my ribs. In the dim glow of the kitchen light, I could make out a shape. Tall, broad shoulders, a hood pulled low over his face. But it was the object in his hand that made my stomach drop. A knife. I didn't have time to think. My instincts kicked in. I turned and ran. "Go to my room! Lock the door!" I yelled to Luke and Sarah as I sprinted back toward the living room. Sarah screamed. Luke grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the hallway. The man was fast. I could hear his heavy footsteps behind me. The sound of his breath, too close. I reached the hallway just as Luke shoved Sarah into my room and slammed the door. I turned, grabbing the nearest thing I could, a lamp from the side table. As the man lunged, I swung. The lamp shattered against his arm. He grunted, stumbling back, but it wasn't enough to stop him. He recovered too quickly. My only chance was to slow him down and buy time for the cops to get here. Then I realized my phone was still in the living room. I had to get it. I bolted toward the couch, the man right behind me. Just as my fingers grazed my phone, he grabbed the back of my hoodie and yanked. I hit the floor hard, pain exploding in my shoulder. Before I could move, he was on top of me, pinning me down. The cold edge of the knife pressed against my cheek. "Where's the money?" His voice was low, gravelly. Money? He thought we were rich? Joke's on him. We weren't. I don't... The knife pressed harder. "Don't lie to me, kid." My brain raced. I needed to get him away from them. "In my dad's room," I gasped. Top drawer, safe." It was a lie. There was no safe, but he didn't know that. He stared at me for a moment before shoving me down and standing up. "Stay put." Yeah, right. The second he turned, I grabbed a fireplace poker from the hearth and, without thinking, swung as hard as I could. It connected with his knee. The sound that followed was awful, like something breaking. The man screamed, collapsing onto one side. I scrambled to my feet, grabbed my phone, and called 911. "He's in the house!" I gasped into the phone, running towards my room. "He has a knife! Send help now!" I barely made it inside my room before Luke yanked the door shut and locked it again. Sarah was crying, curled in the corner. "It's okay," I whispered, pressing my ear against the door. Heavy footsteps, a crash, a curse, then silence. Seconds dragged into minutes. The only sound was my own heartbeat. Then, sirens. The blue and red lights flashed through the window. Relief flooded through me. By the time the cops got inside, the man was gone. He limped out of the back door and disappeared into the woods. But they found blood on the floor. I must have hurt him worse than I thought. The cops searched the area, but never caught him. That was the last time my parents left us home alone.
You're listening to Disturbed. We'll be right back. What's that? The police need to ask me about my whereabouts on the night of the murder? Darn, I'm out of the country for a little while. No reason, really. Just had to get to the Bahamas. You know how it is when you inherit a large sum of money from a tragic passing of a wealthy loved one. But also, I've got these kick-ass new threads from Quince that are having me travel in style. The best part? Quince items are priced 50 to 80% cheaper than similar brands, and they only use safe and ethical manufacturers to make their products. For your next trip, treat yourself to the luxe upgrades you deserve from Quince. Go to quince.com/disturbed for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/disturbed to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/disturbed.
Get ready for Netflix's gripping new medical drama, Pulse. Set in a cutting-edge Miami trauma center, third-year resident Dr. Danny Sims is unexpectedly thrust into a promotion when beloved chief resident Dr. Xander Phillips gets suspended. Then, with the emotional and physical stakes at their highest, a storm will push the hospital and its residents to their limits. Witness how life can change in a heartbeat when you're operating under pressure. Watch Pulse, only on Netflix.
Welcome back to the podcast. Our next story is a voicemail from listener Catherine. If you'd like to submit a voicemail of your own, go to hotline.disturbedpodcast.com, and we might put it on the show.
So this story happened. I was at the age of 23. I had moved out of my hometown at the time, and I moved to a bigger city. The story takes place where I had a partner, or I had a significant other at the time that I was seeing, and he lived in a smaller area. And late at night, the area is known for very dangerous, very crime-ridden. But at the time, 23, I was like, oh, well, I just want to come see you. Didn't think too much about it. So here I was trying to drive to his trailer at the time because he lived in a trailer park. And there was this car that was parked on the opposite side, and it had pulled out as soon as I had pulled out. So I ended up, going and driving off, and this car ends up driving behind me, and it continues to follow me. Well, it follows me at every red light. And then my gut feeling was like, do not go home, because something weird was going to happen if I did. I was just like, do not go home. So I basically drove around every back road. This car still was following me, and it scared me half to death. And I remember, calling my mom. It's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, freaking out. This car's tailgating me. I have no idea if it's one person or multiple. And so she's like, go to the police station. Just go to the police station. Call the police. So I ended up turning the car around, going straight to the police station. And this car had cut around and slammed on their brakes. And I was kind of off on the side road. There was this side road that cut across. And so they cut around, slammed their brakes, and I'm freaking the fuck out. And they get out. It was this guy. He seemed like he was fucked up or something. But he was just like, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you was my ex. And I thought this was my ex's car. And I'm like, what the fuck? So long story short, that was the most weirdest encounter. And I really hope I don't ever have something like that again. But really, really weird. Definitely weird.
Our final story is narrated by the talented Gregory James from Reddit user Scod. I thought you were my friend.
This happened around the time my mom and dad divorced. It wasn't a clean divorce, and there was a lot of turbulence in our lives as a result. My mom had to quickly move out of our school district into a small home, while my dad kept our original house. My 2 brothers decided to stay with my dad, while I and my cousin Drew, who lived with us most of his life, chose to move in with my mom. Since my mom's new place wasn't within the school district, there were no school buses coming to our new neighborhood. So she'd bring us to school before work, and after school, we'd catch the bus to my dad's house and stay there for a couple hours until she got off work to pick us up again. There were quite a few kids in my dad's neighborhood, and we all got along and hung out quite a bit. We'd all ride the bus together, hang out after school, and even try to build forts in the moss, which was a spot in the woods we could access through a small opening at the end of a cul-de-sac. One day, a new family moved into the neighborhood. They had a son named Gabe, whom we first met on the school bus. Curious about the new kid in our neighborhood, we were all eager to talk to him. You might expect me to say that we got a strange vibe from him or that he was creepy, but he just seemed like a regular kid. He seemed to fit in pretty well with the other kids in the neighborhood. It became normal to see me, Drew, and Gabe hanging out along with all our other friends, Kylie, Evan, and Josh. After getting to know him, we learned that Gabe actually used to go to our school, but got expelled after throwing stuff at a teacher. He'd only just been readmitted to our school this year. Back then, we brushed it off as something edgy he did, but looking back, it should have been the first red flag. Gabe, Drew, and I became closer than the other kids. I considered him a friend, not just another neighborhood kid to hang out with, which is why we didn't immediately drop him after the following events. Drew and I got on the bus one day, and I immediately noticed Gabe wasn't there. We sat next to each other every day on the bus. I just assumed he was absent and Drew sat by me instead. Kylie and Evan, who sat near us, started talking about something that happened and we joined their conversation. Apparently, not long after Drew and I left with my mom the day prior, Gabe had invited Kylie, Evan, and Josh to his house. I don't remember what set this in motion or exactly what happened, but the hangout ended with Gabe chasing Josh home with a knife in his hands. Josh lived on the other side of the neighborhood, and once he got home, his mother came out to see what was going on as she heard him yelling for her from the front yard. When she stepped out, Gabe chased both of them inside. The scariest part? Josh said Gabe was laughing and had a smile on his face the whole time, like he enjoyed terrorizing them. The cops were called, and honestly, I don't know what came out of that other than Gabe didn't come to school for a few days. When he returned, he acted like nothing had happened. The kids in our neighborhood started distancing themselves from Gabe after that, especially Josh, who never talked to him again. I mean, who would blame him? I guess I felt a little bit bad for Gabe. My stupid brain must have decided it was a bad prank that went too far, or something like that. Oh, how dumb was I? I truly believe Gabe changed after that. Like something clicked in his brain. Not long after that, we were on the bus in our usual seats, and as I was talking to him, he suddenly pulled out a pencil and stabbed me in the neck. Luckily, it only broke the skin, but it utterly shocked me. He laughed like it was a joke, and I moved to a different seat. As I was getting off the bus, I felt the need to tell the bus driver what happened. I never should have done that. I believe to this day that one choice caused what happened next. Gabe was kicked off the bus for a couple days. When he returned, they made him sit at the front of the bus. He knew it was me who snitched on him. When I'd walk past him to get off the bus, he would glare at me, and his energy felt evil. He called me a snitch and other names, and I was scared of him. Within a week, all the neighborhood kids decided they wouldn't hang out with Gabe anymore. I wish I could say that I made the same choice as them. Even after everything that had happened, I was naive and dumb. Eventually, Gabe messaged me apologizing and asked if Drew and I wanted to hang out. To this day, I don't know why, but we agreed. I think he said he and some other kids were going to hang out in the moss and build some forts, and I guess that's why we agreed, because other kids would be there. So we set off to meet him at his house, which was just down the street from my dad's. We knocked on his door, and he answered it, holding a knife. Screw the red flag. I was ignoring a whole red alarm at this point. It was a kitchen knife with an orange handle. With a smile on his face, he held his arm up and just started cutting himself. We should have left right then. Why didn't we just leave? After a couple cuts, he laughed like it was some sort of joke. It wasn't until adulthood that I realized this kid was psychotic. Something was really wrong with him. He had a couple tools with him and told us to follow him to the moss. And for some dumb reason, we did. I was still holding out hope that he'd be normal when the other kids were around. We got to the small opening to the moss and walked in. There was a small pond in the moss, and to get there, you had to go down a slightly steep hill and through some brush. I bet you could feel my surprise when I realized nobody else was there. I looked at Gabe, who just chuckled. "They must be late. Let's just get started," he said. Both Drew and I were on edge, and I bet Gabe could feel it. "Hey, Landon, go find some sticks and logs to build the fort," he told me. He pointed to the pond. I obeyed and made my way over to the area. About 10 seconds after I started walking, I got the distinct feeling that I should turn around. And I'll never, ever stop thanking God that I did turn around. Gabe was creeping up behind Drew, who was picking up a large rock. Gabe had a garden hoe in his hand and was slowly raising it. I shouted, "Hey!" and Drew jolted up. Gabe quickly lowered the hoe and looked at me in feigned confusion. I ran up to them and said my mom had just messaged me that it was time for us to go. I could tell Gabe knew that I saw what he was doing. So I grabbed my cousin, who didn't question me, and we quickly started to leave. That's when Gabe started chasing us. We booked it through the woods, and when we got to the steep part, we clambered up as quickly as we could. I looked back and saw Gabe still chasing us, a psychopathic expression on his face. I prayed we wouldn't slip or fall, and thank God we didn't. Luckily, Gabe struggled a little bit, giving us enough time to bolt through the forest entrance. We ran halfway up the street before turning around. Gabe wasn't there. In fact, we never saw him leave the woods. We went home, and the next day we told some of the other kids what happened. The weirdest part is that we never saw Gabe again, not on the bus or at school. Very shortly after, his parents moved out of that house. I recently looked Gabe up to see whatever happened to him, but no results came up. Facebook page, no Instagram, nothing. It's like he just vanished. Like he never even existed in the first place. But I know he did. I don't live anywhere near that area anymore, and thank God for that. Gabe, I don't know where you are or what happened to you, but let's agree to never fucking meet again.
Want more Disturbed? Check out our Patreon for member-exclusive content, early merch access, and other cool perks. I'm your host, Doug Bailey, and this has been Disturbed, a production of Killer Podcasts and part of the Evergreen Network. For more paranormal and true crime shows, visit killerpodcasts.com. Follow our social channels at Disturbed Podcast on Instagram or Disturbed_pod on Twitter. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing and reviewing on your favorite listening platform. Share your own true horror story at DisturbedPodcast.com. Music by Epidemic Sound and by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. Our producer is Elizabeth Flood. Our sound designer and audio engineer is Nathan Corson. Executive producers Bridget Korn and Noah Founts. Until next time, stay safe out there.
Do you enjoy science, spooky stories, and all things paranormal? We do too.
While we would love for most paranormal stories to be true, we are here to tell you that they probably aren't. But that doesn't make them any less fun to speculate about.
We are the Spooky Science Sisters podcast. In this podcast, we bring you bi-weekly discussions on possible scientific explanations behind the supernatural. Backed up by research articles and other credible sources, we do deep dives into things like archaeology and physics, and share in-depth discussions with topic experts.
Visit us at SpookyScienceSisters.com to listen to a couple of skeptics debunk some of your favorite alien encounters, cryptid sightings, and ghost stories with science, sass, and a significant amount of laughter.
Thank you, and stay spooky.